looking back, how important was it for your personal growth, breaking from the comfort zone?
When I reflect back, then I realize that because I have, went beyond my comfort zone, I am able to discover a new Susila, which did not exist before. Like a new Susila is there now, is like emerged. Okay, and that is why I would strongly recommend everyone that if they are in their comfort zone, no harm taking the next leap.
So basically, okay, one more thing I want to ask you. Like, are you actively doing that? Are you pushing your kids also actively out of the comfort zone as a mother? I want to constantly ask you, how you deliberately grow yourself as well as your kids, because
yes.
I'm very curious to understand how how that is happening as well.
So I do not deliberately push them, but I feel that in that environment they themselves push themselves. Same with my daughter also. I see that she has taken up a game to do MBBS. Okay, now that's very challenging and difficult.
Yes.
And it is not, we tell her take something light, but no, she has set that aspiration. Sometimes I feel that environment, if they are going beyond their comfort zones, the children automatically will go beyond their comfort zones.
And if I have to ask you to give a takeaway or any insight to any parents listening, because I think especially with, let's say, so much internet exposure and everything, right? Like, I think the newer generation is very different from my generation, is very different from your generation as well, right?
Correct.
And I see a lot of times parents just worrying about that, our kids are getting complacent. That's helpful to think about it.
Yes.
And one more thing that and just branching from the conversation about how breaking out of the comfort zone actually gives us a new version of ourselves. I personally believe that some amount of good stress is always healthy, right? And even in your entire MBA experience, for example, I'm sure it was
extremely stressful.
I didn't even have to
say
it, right?
Yes.
But how is that stress, looking back again, how is that helpful in your personal growth and development as such?
See, one thing is that stress is definitely helpful, but one should realize their capabilities and draw their boundaries. For example, when I was at ISB, I used to sit with 27, 24-year-old children, students. Students. And what used to happen was the way they would solve the math or the quant or some puzzles, I cannot solve. That speed at which they would solve, I was not able to solve. So that will cause stress. Now, how do you deal with that stress? One thing is that to be complacent, saying that okay, I can't do it anymore, or request, take help, ask them to guide, how do you do it so fast, and to some extent you can go, to some extent you cannot go. Okay, so stress is healthy, but one should know their limitations and one should be responsible, because it may damage also. I went through a breakdown in my health in 2017, wherein I had to step back in my life. Not that I have quit my job or anything like that. Again, my family supported me completely, that I was pretty successful in my job. I got a 25% hike and a great change. However, my health, there was a breakdown, so I had to step out of all my other accountabilities for a brief period of time.
How long was that period of time?
6 to 9 months. So at that time, maybe I hit the peak of my stress or the accountabilities. Then I had to step back. How I take it is, I don't take it in a derogatory way, because I have now overcome it and I am back to my full potential, or maybe more also. Is that I always give this analogy to my mentees, that in cricket the bowler goes back and then comes forward and does the bowling. That's how he gets the pace. Right? So likewise in my life, I went back, and I went back really back, and then I came forward, and now I've gained my pace. So that's how I always tell my mentees also, when they're falling and failing, that this is part of the journey. So I'm not saying that, I had a very successful life. No, it is not true. I have had my own hiccups, but how I dealt with it is what matters.
Absolutely, right. And I met you after a very long time, and I think I was seeing, like back in full form, Sushila, when I met you again. And but you're right, absolutely. Recharging, rejuvenating, and just giving yourself. Also, I think just what I hear is a lot of compassion for yourself and a lot of compassion from your environment as well, right?
Yes. So I read this book called Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. Those days I read it maybe 7-8 times. Same book. So I don't read multiple books. I read only one book multiple times. So that book really helped me to be on the ground and deal with my health issue, along with, of course, doctors' help.
One other thing that you mentioned, that all your time, whether it is mission control or it is, I know that you also did some amount of inner child work. How has all this self work been pivotal in your personal as well as professional life?
Okay, so these programs, see, as I told you, when I got married, I was a very suppressed, not knowing anything in the world kind of a person. And I did my first program when I was 29. It really broke open many things for me. That somebody who cannot stand on the stage and deliver a presentation is now leading such a podcast, and I led multiple workshops in multiple places. I traveled 10 plus countries and all alone, and somebody who couldn't travel from Visakhapatnam to Delhi to make a paper presentation, then traveled like 10 plus countries, was in the US for a year. So that is in the career front.
Also solo travels once a quarter.
Yes, solo travels once a quarter. Writing, right? And also asking people for help, which many people hesitate. I have no shame in asking people for help if I need something, okay? And that's on the professional front. On the personal front, relationships. So I don't hold on to, suppose I fight with you, okay? I don't hold on to, Kritika, I fought with her, so I will not talk to her. So that fight is over, then I discuss with you, it's over, then that's over for me. So in my life again, this won't come to the back again. That day in 2012 I fought with her, so now I shouldn't speak to her. So no such thing. So that gives me harmony in my relationships and a kind of oneness in my relationships.
You said something very interesting, that when you were at ISB, your mother and mother-in-law actually took care of the kids, and you kind of arranged for who will be coming in when. Now this is a very Indian perspective question. How did you have that relationship with your mother-in-law, where arranging for so many things was possible? I think a lot of times we are just hesitant, and there are all the time like daughter-in-law, mother-in-law jokes, how it's not the most perfectly workable relationship, but you turned it around like that. So what is the secret, Sushila?
So what I have analyzed in this whole mother-in-law daughter-in-law relationship is there is a constant competition. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're competing for their son's approval or love or something. Okay. So if one can handle that competition part well, your game is done, right? I will share one small example. My mother-in-law made brinjal curry one day, and everybody ate it. The next day, actually I made brinjal curry one day, everybody ate it, they said it's very tasty, it's very good, and we never had this kind of a brinjal curry. This was just when I got married. Next day, she made brinjal curry, next day itself. And then she served for everybody, and she asked, whose is good? Mine or Sushila's? Her name is also by the name of Sushila.
Oh really?
Yeah. So I said, whose is good? Then she looked at me also. Then I said, obviously yours. I am just an intern. I can never overtake you. Yours is obviously very good. I just made something, and because I am new to the family, everybody said. That settled the equation between us, that there is no competition. And my husband also played a very important role, that he would always validate my mother-in-law's point of view when there is a discussion. He would always say, let us listen to what Amma is saying. It's very simple. And I also, over a period of time, realized not in every places I need to use my head and brain. So in certain places I don't use. So whatever she says, I used to do it. Whether I like it or not, don't use your head or don't use your emotions. Just do it, because we come from a very ritualistic family. Lot of pujas have to be performed. Lot of things have to be performed. I would just do. I would ask her what has to be done, and I would tell her it's convenient for me, so I will do it. If it's not convenient, I will tell her it's not convenient for me. What is the alternative? But because when it is convenient, I did it as per her process with no violations. When it is not convenient for me, she would say it's okay. So that is how in the first 1 year itself I can say that she owned me up as her daughter. She didn't have daughters, so she owned me up as her daughter.
So not using
My head everywhere.
That's a good takeaway also for me also to take, and I think a lot of young girls watching this episode to
Intelligent girls, I have observed, not to comment anything negative about them, they try to use their intelligence everywhere, right? The intelligence is not to use intelligence in some places.
That's
Actual intelligence is not to use intelligence in all places.